is the opposite of diplomacy. I want to say who is stirring this up. We have consistently transatlantically corrupted elites in Europe, and in my view, this has a lot to do with the Second Iraq War in 2003. Back then, Chancellor Gerhard Schroeder, French President Jacques Chirac, and Russian President Vladimir Putin decided not to participate in this illegal war of aggression by the Americans, which resulted in hundreds of thousands of deaths. And there was immediately a discussion about old Europe and new Europe. And New Europe, like Warsaw and so on, did participate and so on. And in Washington, within the neoconservative circles of the foreign policy establishment, it was decided that this must not happen again. We must enforce allegiance. And this is done by replacing personnel. Throughout Europe today, we see politicians who follow this American policy because they have made their careers in transatlantic organizations or are connected to transatlantic organizations. Sigmar Gabriel, Atlantic Bridge, Annalena Baerbock, young global leaders. Take a look at France, Macron and his now resigned Prime Minister Attal. These are people who have been socialized in international banking. They have more to do with their colleagues in international banking than with their own population. They are not interested in that at all. It is a transnational elite that travels around the globe to produce a few nice TV images for the people back home. Otherwise, they meet in their clubs, at their conferences, and for a pat on the back from Washington. They do everything for this because it satisfies their own need for recognition and their own career. That's how it is. This elite must be replaced before anything changes.
Und diese Elite muss abgelöst werden, bevor sich etwas ändert. Und das macht man in Demokratien mit dem Wahlzettel oder indem man von seinem Recht Gebrauch macht.
And that is done in democracies with the ballot or by exercising the right to peacefully assemble in the open air. There is no other way. With these figures, there will be no more peace in Europe. I wish these people, that so to speak, a regiment is put together. Not even for frontline duty, but perhaps for collecting body parts behind the front. That is salutary. And of course, these people are also driven. If you look at the specialist literature, you can show, economically and sociologically, that in all developed industrial nations of the West, the profit rate has been falling for about 4 decades.
Etwa 4 Jahrzehnten die Profitrate fällt. Die Profitrate, das ist das Verhältnis des Gewinns zum eingesetzten.
The profit rate is the ratio of profit to invested capital, and that is deteriorating for companies. This makes capital nervous. A decline in the profit rate can be countered, for example, by lowering wages, rationalization, reducing production costs, opening up new markets and expanding production, or by procuring cheaper raw materials. But also through a war, because war leads to the destruction of capital. Then the original accumulation can begin again. All these possibilities are offered by Ukraine. Black soil allows for expansive agricultural production, rare earths, and raw materials that are cheap to procure.
Seltene Erden, Rohstoffe, die billig zu beschaffen sind. Der selbsternannte außenpolitische Vordenker der CDU.
The self-proclaimed foreign policy thinker of the CDU, Kiesewetter, has pointed out cheap labor and now the war. One must say, the war is driven by the exploitation pressures of capital. Let's take a look at who owns the companies in Germany. In almost all large companies and also in many medium-sized businesses, American financial investors are involved. Foremost among them are BlackRock, Vanguard, and the like. Now let's look at Ukraine. BlackRock and JP Morgan have signed a contract with the Ukrainian state that these two financial investors will manage Ukraine's national debt. So you can make money with debt.
Also mit Schulden kann man Geld verdienen.
Above all, when you know that afterwards all the burdens are shifted onto the European Union and its taxpayers. There are even commissions for management, and you can see who has an interest in this war. These are international financial investors. And because